Hi, everybody. This is Charlene O'Hanlon, Managing Editor at DevOps.com and DevOps TV. And I'm here at day 2 of the DevOps Enterprise Summit in Las Vegas. Forgot where I was for a second. With me to my left is Laura Fay, who is the Vice President of Research and Advisory X as a Service Product Management at TSIA. And Laura, welcome. Thank you very much for joining me today.
It's my pleasure.
We're going to talk about product management, what it is and why it's so important. So why don't you kind of lay the groundwork for me?
Sure.
Why is it so important?
Well, product management ultimately product management defines the promise of any kind of a product offering to the marketplace. Right? Development develops the product and DevOps together, they take that to market. But really, it's ultimately that promise and the whole kind of business plan around the offering. And ultimately seeing it through and being successful, growing market share, growing revenue for the company. So some people like to talk about product management as or product managers as being the mini CEO of their product, right? It's all encompassing, all from the strategy to the definition to the development to the in-market success.
Okay, so in the scope of DevOps, product managers are working with the teams to make sure that what is developed and put out to market is what it's supposed to be, basically.
So that is their remit.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that is their remit there.
All right, great. So, what are some of the things that, when we're talking about product management in that space? What are some of the things that make that role so important? And do you think that it's a role that's maybe overlooked often, or is there, are companies treating it the way that it should be treated?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. If companies are treating it the way that they should, as things have evolved, and specifically my focus is around B2B enterprise software, right? And as things have evolved, really, there's more and more of a need to really understand the total value stream, not just from, to use the DevOps terminology, from code to cloud, but really from concept to consumption, right? And that really includes product management on the front end. I like to think product management on the back end as well, as they really understand how customers are using their products, right? So it sort of expands that whole value stream. And today, I think we still have quite a ways to go on the journey to kind of operationalize that and to have the handshake between product management and DevOps be such that it's mutually reinforcing, right? I believe that DevOps can gain a lot from a tight partnership with product management to really sort of understand the business context in which they're performing some of the awesome things that they do. And conversely, product management needs to be, I believe, a little bit more involved, and I think can do with a lot of significant advice also from their technology counterparts, both in areas of things like security, telemetry. Today, just in some recent research that I was doing, it's a minority practice today for enterprise software companies to have the full customer lifecycle instrumented through telemetry in their products today, and even when it is available, even when the products are instrumented, we're not, as an industry, doing a good job of making that information available across the company, right? For insights and data-driven decision making. So there's a lot to be gained from a more coordinated and tighter handshake.
So, do you think traditionally it's been that way because the product managers have been kind of thought of as kind of, I don't want to say second-class citizens, but maybe not really integral to, because they're not really considered the guys who are doing the hands-on stuff. Yeah. So, do you think that's the reason?
I think there's a couple of things. So, company cultures and whatnot notwithstanding, right? Sometimes you have an engineering culture or a sales culture, and you may have the first and second class citizenry there. But I think certainly in the enterprise software space, the business models are changing, right? So it used to be you sold software on a perpetual license. The customer took it, they installed it on their site, and then IT was responsible for getting everything kind of up and running. that's all shifted. That's all changed, right? Now more and more budgets are moving to line of business. Product management, the importance of really kind of understanding what the value proposition is for the product. Companies are taking more of this complexity on as they move everything to the cloud, right? And so that there's more of a need for not just kind of ship it and forget it, but understanding how the customers are using the product so that ultimately, now that they're subscribing, they're going to be renewing year over year over year. So really it expands the role in many ways to really make sure that they understand everything end to end.
Okay.
So that's, I think that's kind of the fundamentals of what's changing in enterprise software.
Okay, all right. So,
and the role of product management as a result.
And with that role, I imagine they're touching other points within the organization
Yes.
that the developers and those folks aren't.
That's right.
So marketing, finance.
Services, customer success now, sales.
So what does that mean for job qualifications then? I mean, if you, is a product manager a more technical oriented position, or is it technical, but you also have to
you can see there's a lot of I won't say confusion, but a lot of variation in the marketplace on this. People talk about product management, but then there's also this other role of product owner, right? Which is often more inward facing to development and operations to define the details, define the stories in the backlog, if you will, and make sure that everything is lined up in a way that developers can actually develop the requirement. Product management may be performing that role, but they may also be performing much more outward-facing roles, much more business planning and strategy and offer design and pricing and many of the other things that kind of go along with that sort of broader role. And then, I joke sometimes with my colleagues that I see a scenario, I call it gerrymandering, because sometimes things like offer design and pricing might sit in product management, but it might sit in product marketing. And it just very much depends on who the leaders are, where their skill sets are, where some things like that naturally fall. So there's a lot of variation, and I think many product managers are MBAs.
Okay.
So they've got that business background. Many of them came from the technology side of the house. So they hopefully, they've got some blend of that technology and business.
So do you think that product management is would you consider it a growing field then for a lot of these organizations?
Yes, I would, I would consider it a growing field. I think there's many companies now who realize that there's no sort of cookie cutter version of what makes a great product manager. And they're seeing people coming in from very different backgrounds into product management now, some coming actually from customer success, actually working with the customers day in, day out, and kind of moving into product management to help craft the value-driven capability within the product. And so many companies are investing in growing their own, molding them into what they want them to be, whether they come from the technical side of the house, whether they come from pure business backgrounds, whether they come from customer success, sometimes come from marketing, or just UI design. Some of them come just from that kind of creative UI design background.
Interesting stuff. It's interesting. I don't really think about product management in the sense that it's a critical role within an organization, but
Very
since
critical.
It touches so many departments and has such an impact.
Well, that's a perfect way to say it. I kind of think of product management as sort of at the epicenter of impact for all of the different functions. And there's growing awareness of that now. I think it's a majority. Now it's become a majority practice for companies to have product management or a chief product officer reporting to the CEO or to a business unit GM, right? As opposed to the product folks kind of tucked in under, what would have been considered development or tucked in under marketing, that it has its own central function. And on the DevOps side, many of the companies that I work with are, as they're making the business model transition from traditional business models to subscription offerings, and standing up cloud capabilities and so forth, they're struggling to figure out what is the right handshake between product and DevOps, and how can they operationalize that value stream. extend it out, as I said, from concept through consumption, whereas perhaps sometimes might be more narrowly thought of as code to cloud.
Right. Okay. All right. So last question is product management the next hot career in technology then?
Well, that's an interesting question. There's a very significant volume of open positions. I do know that, and you just have to kind of look at LinkedIn, and you see that today. Anybody who's wants to have that impact, but who really understands the technology and has kind of a pathway to the business, it's not an unreasonable direction or a career choice.
All right, great. Well, Laura, Fay, thank you very much for taking the time and walking me through it. Appreciate it.
Thank you.